I'm 51. I started networking when I was 25, and I ran Motor City Connect from '06 to 2020, and shoot, there was a period of time in Motor City Connect's history when we were doing 14 meetings a month. Right. I mean,
Wow,
that's
that's awesome.
three a week, right? Sometimes two or three a day. It was just got goofy, man. So getting out of that is okay for now.
So let me ask you, because people listening and building businesses and stuff like that, how did you spent so much time in your life, going all the way back to your 20s, networking and doing in-person stuff. What did you do to transition?
Transition out or out
Well,
of it
so
or
like
what?
how did you fill your time? Two, I obviously you're well known, you've built your name up, you've been networking since the beginning. I remember when I first met you and talking about going to your event, and I remember mentioning your name, and everybody I talked to like, oh yeah, Terry, he's awesome. Like you've built a brand for yourself. People know you, so you can transition probably a little bit easier. But at the same time, when you're used to doing all these in-person events, how did you fill your time, or did it just start filling?
It fills, right? Networking was something that I was doing in addition to the things I was doing, right? Not in lieu of.
Yeah.
So the going to an event, in the later years of Motor City Connect, we'd have one meeting a month, right? So you'd spend time promoting and getting people to attend that meeting, and then you'd spend time at that meeting, and that. And those meetings always, as much as they say they're running from 11:30 till 1, for me it
Yeah.
was 11:34 because I've never really been an on time kind of guy, but 11:34 till like 3.
Yeah.
Right. And that doesn't include drive time. And, I live in White Lake, Michigan, and I'm not hosting a networking event out here. Right. I got to go
Yeah.
where people are, so that was always a bit of a trek. But yeah, not doing that. It's not like it bought me days a week back. It bought me a few hours a month. And so it wasn't like, oh my gosh, there's so much time to fill now. It was funny. I was at this thing I was mentioning, this beer thing, and someone's like, I've heard of you. I know your name. I've seen your name around, but I've never really seen you at an event. I said, well, I don't like to go to events. And he said, what? Why? And I said, well, I don't want to ruin the reputation I've built, man. If I'm a ghost, I could people could think and hear and know what they think and hear and know. If I show up, I'm gonna ruin all of it.
It's like your Kaiser Soze.
Yeah, that's exactly right, man. I'll just be over here in the corner and you won't necessarily know when I dip out either. Because when I'm gone, I'm gone.
And then people are like, did anybody see Terry Bean? Oh my God, that was who that guy was? He was in the corner like all that time?
He was talking to that one person and they never really left. Yeah, man. It's so funny because again, it's like I've had people, and this weirds me out every time. You're like a celebrity. I'm like, I would no. Do you know what a celebrity is? Because I'm not like that at all. Not at all. But dudes are like, "Oh, I was in the car and you called, and I like took my phone and I showed it. Look, Terry Bean's calling me. And I'm like, just gross, man. Don't do that. Don't do that. So
Don't do that.
it's a trip, man. I if I've done anything well, right, over the years, um, I've been nice to people, right?
Mm.
I've displayed kindness frequently, intentionally. And like if you've got an issue, I'm like vanilla ice, yo, I'll solve it. What can I do, man? I'm gonna try and help you get to where you want to go. And that's it, man. And I wish more people would take the time and expend that energy in that way, because it's a big world. We got a lot to do, and it's easier to get it done when we've got help. So, gotta
I
ask.
Yeah, man. Like we could sit and talk about this all day. And in my passion, I work with people in sales and how to become more natural in sales. To me, sales is so easy, but we make it so hard. And I think sales is so easy because my mindset is exactly like yours. Who can we go help?
Who can we help?
Who can we serve? Who can we take care of? Somebody's talking to you and they want to meet somebody certain. Do I know somebody in my network I can connect them with? Or the other day, I just reached out to a friend and asked her how she was doing. And she was like, like I'm actually pretty frustrated. I'm going through some different issues. I hate my job. I kind of want to get into something more meaningful. I want to do something like fundraising, work with a nonprofit. Like, I know some people that run nonprofits. And so I reached out to them and was able to connect her. And she's like, thank you so much. Like, listen, I know the people. Why would I sit there and hold that from you?
Yeah,
Like, I want
right.
you to succeed. Like, I want you to be happy.
Absolutely. And oh, by the way, what's the worst thing that happens? They talk and they don't like each other. That's not necessarily even on you, right? And that's what I don't get. And the other piece along this line is the difference between like referrals, right, and recommendations. And I want people to know that making referrals should be a part of our DNA,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
I can refer you without necessarily recommending you, right? And there's an important distinction here. You have a need, this person could fill that need, you should chat and see if it works
It
out,
works out.
which is
Mm-hmm.
different than you have a need and this is my dude and they're amazing and they're going to hook you up and take excellent care of you and I'm expecting it to work out. And it's just really how we set that table that matters.
I love that distinction. That's a great distinction for people to know and understand, is because there is that big difference in somebody might not feel comfortable recommending somebody, but
Sure.
knowing it's not on you, that this is a potential fit. Hey, they do what you're looking for. Check them out.
That's it. It's so simple and could be really, really helpful to both parties. And then both parties are on like high alert to figure out how to help you,
Yes.
right? It's,
Yes.
networking is a form of relationship capital, right? And you can't really go to your bank account and make withdrawals until you've made some deposits. You really can't go to your network and make a bunch of withdrawals until you've made some deposits. Now, I'll tell you that asking for what you need, right? Giving someone the permission or the opportunity to help you is a form of deposit. If we look at it from the perspective of how do we serve other people, if I give you the opportunity to help me by making an introduction for me, I that's going to add value to you down the road, especially if it's a successful introduction. So we can't just say, well, all asks are withdrawals. They're not necessarily, right? It's that opportunity to help is important.
If you connect somebody with somebody that solved their problem, took them to another level, like a great relationship into their life, that, you're right, is a deposit. That's not a withdrawal, because now you look great from both of those people. And to your point, both those people are going to figure out, how can I help that person? How can I help Jason? How can I help Terry?
That's it, man. That's it. So, I want people to be more intentional about it. I want people to be more open. I want people to share more. Like, go out of your way to share. Because it just adds value. If you remember some of the marketing for Motor City Connect, one of my lines was always, the better we all get at networking, the better all of our networking gets, right? And it's so much better when we're like focused and intentional at it.
How did you always realize this, or when you started networking, did you have to do like I did and stumble and try to figure it out and have awkward conversations, or did you just kind of figure it out? How did this all roll out?
This is fun. I'm glad you asked this question. I was 25 years old. I was working at a computer software training company in Columbus. I got a phone call from a guy named Jim Beck, who interestingly I just talked to yesterday. um, and he said, "Hey, I'm at CompuCorp or whatever the name of the company was, and we do computer networks and we help companies set up networks, and you and I should do some networking." And I'm like, "Whoa, back up, what?" That's a lot of the word same
Network.
word in way different context. And what is this networking thing of which you speak? And so he explained it to me, and okay, that made sense. And it didn't take, and I didn't get into it straight away, but about a year later, I was with a company, um, probably in the staffing business at this point, where I was like, all right, I'm going to go check out this networking group and see what happens. And it was new. I mean, they had like 12 members, and you know, 3 weeks later, all of a sudden I was the membership chair of this group because even young, I've been, let's be polite and call me verbose. let's use that word. And so as the membership chair, we started growing, and within like a year and a half, that 12-person group was a 50-person group, in one of the premier chapters of that organization in Columbus. And the guy who was the president of the chapter when I started, Frank Egan, he ended up buying the entire organization. But before he did that, he was the regional director for all of Ohio, because this group was started out in Pennsylvania. And he's like, all right, I need area directors because I've got 20 some chapters that I'm overseeing. I need people to go see some. So at 26, 27 years old, I was running around the 5 different chapters and helping them be more efficient and effective at networking. And the reason I was good at it is twofold. I listen really, really well. I listen well. I speak well, right? I'm a better listener than a speaker. And the second one is my memory's tight, right? Like I see angles and I connect dots and I care, that was it. And so I don't know that there was a time that I was fumbling around in it, just because like giving seems so natural to me and helping others. And so I got it pretty early, and I got fortunate. Bob Berg was a speaker at one of our all group events. So I met Bob in the late 90s.
Wow.
And yeah, so I got to watch him. And I don't remember if he did Endless Referrals. I think he did. And he had just come out with a book called Winning Without Intimidation.
Okay.
And it's a super underrated book, and it's all communications, and I have a master's degree in communications, or as my friends back then said, common sense. But
Common sense, as you and I both know, is not common whatsoever, which makes it so important.
it's so not common. It's ridiculous, right? We skate right past that all day, every day, man. I'll never understand it, but that's who we are, and that's what we're doing these days. So keeps it fun.
You named, though, to me, I think the 3 keys to being a successful networker, and it's who you are, which is why you just landed in it and we're good. I watched so many people struggle with going into networking, and myself included, because I didn't know what to do. I was young. My first networking meeting I was told to go to, I was so nervous. I was told to go to a chamber meeting. I was probably like 26, 27, and I drove around and around and around. I was like 30 minutes early to the event, and I drove around until I was like right at the time of the event, and then I got in the parking lot and I sat there in the parking lot, and then it was like I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, and I said, well, now I'm 20 minutes late, I can't go in late, and I left. And then the next time it's like, how do I break into a conversation? How do you talk about yourself? Everybody thinks about, how am I going to sell myself? And they don't listen. They don't connect the dots. They don't go into the giving attitude. They go in with that scarcity mindset of, I'm here now, I've got to sell now, versus the relationship really happens after the event.
100%. 100%. And that's the other piece, right? Is it's a networking event. It's not a sales event, right? If it's the 29th of the month and you're a few sales away from quota, going to a networking event isn't solving your problem. It's exacerbating your problem, because now you look like that desperate guy who's trying to close something. And
Yes.
people can smell that. And, pew, go away.
Yeah. When
Get
they see that
here.
person coming to your corner, they all scatter.
Like, oh, here comes Sally sells a lot. We got to go. So, yeah, no, nobody likes that. Don't be that person.
Don't be that person.
Don't be that person. And one of my favorite teachings that's in my book is about remembering names. And because people always say, I can't remember names. I have a bad memory. I
Horrible.
don't
Yeah,
do
yeah,
this.
yeah. That's what people say.
That's all BS. Your memory's fine, I promise. What's not fine is your ability to pay attention in moments that matter,
Yep.
right? It's not a memory issue, it's an attention deficit disorder.
Yep.
And specifically, excuse me, and you just alluded to this because we're trying to figure out how to sound smart. We're trying to sound like we know what's up or we've got something of value. Stop doing that, right? Stop doing that. Go there with the intention of listening and learning. And I promise you, you're going to actually hear their name because your brain's not going to be flitting around saying, what do I say next? How do I make this sound cool? Right? You stay engaged in the person, and all of a sudden you'll actually hear the name. And then, of course, you'll be able to use it a couple of times in context, and that'll refresh and store it deeper. Right. So it's so important.
I'd love to know from you, what is remembering people's names gotten you in life?
That's an interesting question. I'm gonna have to think through that, but I will tell you, it's a hell of a parlor trick, man. you know,
It is.
you walk in and you see somebody and you call them by name, and they know you haven't seen each other for a year or three. And then someone's like, hey, how'd you two meet? And then you rattle off the story about how and where, and it was 8 years ago. And they're like, God, that's right. How do you remember that? It seemed important at the time, man.
Yeah,
So and maybe I'm blessed with a good memory. I am aware that that is true. The difference I think for most people is they think they don't have a good memory. So we were talking about mindset at the very start of the show, right? It's really how we perceive things, right? Perception's reality.
it is. And everybody gives themselves the excuse that I don't remember names. And I say the same exact thing. Your memory is perfect. Unless you've had an accident or you have short-term memory issues, your memory is perfect. And,
Yeah.
and you can remember people's names. The problem, to your point, is that you're thinking about what you're going to say next, as opposed to listening and keying in on what that person's saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. My memory sucks. Oh, yeah. Well, I would like you to sing Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses for me. Oh, no problem. What key? And they go
Yeah.
blaring it off.
They even get
Like,
that high note, you know?
it's like, your memory's fine, man. Trust me. So that's awesome. I love that you tell people it's perfect. That's good.
Well, so and the first personal development book I ever read was How to Win Friends and Influence People. In the chapter about names really, really stood out to me. I was 22, 23, young salesperson, and so I started practicing that and remembering people's names and just seeing how people's responses, being a young salesperson, making mistakes, not filing paperwork right. I would have people that would come in and have billing issues and stuff. And I'd see people walking up from the parking lot, and I could see them steam rolling out of their ears. They were ready to tell off the salesperson because obviously salespeople are slimy. And when this person walks in the door and I'm like, Terry, how's it going? And I'm greeting them by name, instantly it calmed people down because I'm already different than the average experience they're going to get. Most salespeople that are ripping people off on purpose are running from that person. They're going and hiding, or they're not going to remember their name and greet them and stand there and have a conversation with them. And so right away, I was able to defuse a bomb in most cases just by remembering somebody's name.
I love that. Yeah. Well, I mean, let's be honest. Everybody's favorite sounds their name, everybody's favorite topics themselves, right? Lean into what we already know about people and don't be amazed when it works out really, really well,
If you want to be a great conversationalist, just ask people questions about themselves.
100%. They've got a whole section on that in the book, right? It's like we could talk for 10 minutes and I'll talk about me for about 19 to 60 seconds.
Yep.
And we'll talk about you for the rest of the time. And you'll walk away going, man, that guy's brilliant. Yeah, I sure am, man.
I want to be around that guy more. I want to send people I want to send trap business to him. I want to send my friends to him because how I feel when I spend time with him, right? So
It's a
many.
transference of energy, dude. And if you do it right, it's you're just reflecting theirs back to them, and they're already gonna feel comfortable in it.
Yes, yeah. We put so much pressure on ourselves as revenue generators, salespeople, whatever you want to, whatever position you're in, building relationships. We put so much pressure on ourselves. We think that it's the fastest talker or the person that says all the right words, and so that's why we put all that pressure, and we're not thinking about that other person across from us. But you can take all that pressure off and just get to know somebody. Who are these people? Ask great questions and listen, and you'll get the business because you'll find the answers. But two, maybe it's not even the business, like you said. Maybe you make a connection. Maybe you The only reason I'm sitting here right now is because of the relationships I've been able to build by listening and referring and connecting and building collaborations. And if I wasn't doing that, if I was going out and telling everybody how I'm an amazing sales coach, nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit. Like.
Mhm. That's right. And oh, by the way, it's one thing for you to say what an amazing sales coach you are, right? But that sounds like a sales pitch. But
Yes,
when somebody's friend says what an amazing sales coach you are, now it's the truth, baby.
it is.
And it's a whole different ball game. Yeah. I genuinely I'm horrible talking about myself, right? If you were to hit play on this recording, you would hear that I wasn't really talking about me, right? I was talking about ideas and I was talking about things.
Yes.
I don't want to talk about me because, quite frankly, I'm not even sure I've earned the right for your attention to listen about me yet, right? But we start talking about you. We start talking about ideas and concepts and constructs and cool shit. Then, right, we're already there, and maybe people ask, and maybe they won't. I don't. Doesn't even matter. And even if they do, I have a real bad habit of flipping that script quick, man. I might answer your question, but you're getting one back, and I'm not letting you hammer me again. I'm squirrely.
I'm the same way, and I'm almost uncomfortable when people start asking me questions because I'm not used to it. I'm used to like, I was like, wait a minute, you're not flipping the conversation on me here.
Yeah, that's it. See, did that without. I told you I was going to do it, and still did it. It's fun, man.
But so this is the thing, though. I even just doing this podcast, I landed a speaking gig in for Referraltopia in May, and I was asked, come and speak about just listening because I see your
Nice.
listening skills. I see the way you ask questions. I see the way that you listen to what somebody was saying and then you follow up with a question that was directly that you had to obviously be listening, and it's just a skill that most people don't have, and I want you to come and speak about that. I didn't seek out this opportunity. It just happened because somebody was listening and hearing that I was listening.
I love that. I love that. It's it's funny because you listening and asking great questions and listening, and I argue with myself all the time as to which one comes first, right? Which is more important? And I don't know that I have an answer. Do you? Which is more important, asking great questions or listening?
I can't say that either one is more important than the other. I think it's a process. It's a formula. If you have one without the other, and I have a great example. I have a young sales guy that I coached a long time ago, and he was the worst question asker and listener. He came from a kiosk in the mall, and if you know a lot about kiosks in the mall, they usually shoot the pistols and they're fast talkers and they've got a deal just specifically for you. And that's what this guy was. And so we were finally ready to break through, and he was asking great questions, and I was listening to him deal with this client or this person, and she was an older lady, and he asked her some great questions. He asked her such a great question that this lady gave him all the answers that he needed in from this one question. She went on and just told him the story of herself, and I'm sitting there like, there's that answer, there's that answer, there's that answer. He was not listening, and then
Oh
he
no.
asked a question that she'd already answered.
Oh
So
no.
it was blatantly obvious that she had already answered that question, to the point that she looked at him and was like, you know what? I think I'm good, and left. He blew
Oh
the whole entire thing.
man.
He asked a great question, but he didn't listen to it.
Yeah, man. And you're right. So that's why I go back and forth. I'm like, I'm not sure which is more important, but they're useless if not combined, right? It's talk about a yin yang kind of circle, man. It's
Because you can have the
Gotta
great
be
listening skills,
proportional.
but if you can't get somebody talking and you're not asking them the right questions, what are you listening to?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And then if you're asking great questions but not listening, you just described that scenario perfectly. Just horrendous.
It's
So
disingenuous.
it is. It is. And it's a waste of time. I
Just the
mean,
time. Yeah, yeah.
it's a wasted time, right? Don't ask the and we do this all the time. I think about it, and I do it too, right? We're walking through a mall or down the street or whatever. Hey, how are you? And nobody stops, right? Nobody
Yeah.
stops. Hey, how are you? Well, I have no idea. I couldn't hear you because you're 20 feet past me already. So, and that's on me too because I didn't stop either, you know. But it's so weird to me that that's how we're wired, right? We don't make time for things that actually matter.
That to me was the coolest part about COVID at the beginning was, and everybody was running around like the world is crazy and disrupted and don't know what we're going to do about money. But I'm like, we're time rich right now. We get to spend time with family and we get to spend time with the people that matter the most, that we've said all along that we don't have the time for, that we said we're too busy for. And if you're not taking advantage of it now, expect that your family is not going to be the same. You're not going to be the same out of this. Because you've wasted all this time to really just be there and be present.
I love that. And I loved that. For me, it was almost the exact same reset that we had after 2008 crash, right? No one could afford to do anything. So they were stuck doing nothing at home, right? Board game sales went up like crazy and, video rentals were at all-time high, right? It's so
Yeah.
it was kind of that same sentiment about let's get back to what matters. And you think back to reading posts about all this new wildlife that's walking through cities because nobody else was out walking around, and just how
Yeah.
cool that whole uh what's a environmental reset was, man. And we're gonna end up looking back on those because we have horrible memories, right? As a rule,
Yeah.
short-term memory issues all over the place. And we'll be right back into the same bullshit that we were in 5 years
Oh,
ago, right?
we're already getting there. We're already back towards that and making progress towards that. And you were talking about how going back to the events yesterday and how it's starting at noon and going to the evening. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but we're full circle back into normal life. I look around and I see, and nothing's wrong with that, I guess. But did you take advantage of that time? I guess. I know I did. I look back to that time very, very fondly.
I managed to paddleboard 132 times in 2020.
Wow.
I live in Michigan. I
Yeah.
and that was and when I say times, I mean days, right? I don't mean I went out 3 times in a day. I mean 132 days in Michigan. March till December, I was on that board. And,
Wow.
and I would have been on there in February, but it's hard to paddleboard through ice.
March 2020 was really nice weather. Like it was like the weather combined to just give us a glorious time. I remember sitting outside in the
Yeah,
sun was out all the time. There was very little rain days. It was just a glorious season.
it really was, man. That's kind of fun to think back on. It was weird. It was really,
It was
really
weird.
weird.
Yeah.
But I remember telling people all the time, I'm like, dude, if you're not using this time to better yourself in some way, shape, or form, you're gonna get out of this and it's gonna be wasted. So, I learned how to make better presentations. I'm a decent communicator, but not a good visual communicator. I'm an
Yeah.
auditory guy, right? My modality is auditory. So the visuals never really matter to me because I don't see them anyway. And so I realized that, okay, well, tough shit. You're talking to 70% of the population who's visual. Get better at that, and then it was either that or watch Tiger King, and that didn't seem to be that interesting. So I don't know.
Tiger King.
I haven't watched that still.
Good for
I've
you.
missed that and the Kardashians so far, so I feel good about my life.
I've never watched the Kardashians in my life, but I did watch through the Tiger King just because there's nothing it was on and yeah, it was I sat through it with my jaw open the whole time. Like, I can't believe that this was actually recorded. This is real life, and I'm watching it right now.
This was a thing. Oh my God, yeah. You couldn't miss it, man. It was like that was the hottest thing on the planet. I don't quite understand how we allow that, man. Honey Boo Boo was hot for a while too, so that tells you everything you need to know.
It really is. How fame happens. It's so crazy. So crazy.
So weird, man. Again, priorities are whack.
And to kind of go back how people talk about you know, almost you're like a celebrity, or and I had this as I poured into doing a lot of LinkedIn content during the pandemic, and I had this meeting one time, and there was a lady that kept on commenting on all my stuff and liking it. So I reached out to her because, hey, you're coming back over and over. We should talk. You know, let's have a
Sure.
conversation. I'd want to know more about you. And the first thing she said is, when we got on Zoom, just like that, is this is, oh my God, you're real. And I was like you, like, what do you, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hell yeah. Babe.
I'm just a dude, like, yeah, sure. But I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, well, she's like, I've been watching your stuff, like some people watch Netflix. I've been watching your videos, and so I feel like you're almost like famous. And it's like, well, I'm not. So like, I'm just a person, you know. But that's awesome. That's cool.
Right.
Um, but
Flattery gets you everywhere.
it gets you everywhere. But it's funny in thinking about how we elevate people in fame, because Honey Boo Boo could be famous. You know, you look at certain people. I just heard the other day, I saw a headline in an article that the lady that was on, I don't even know what show it was on, Maury Povich or something like that, where she said, "Cash me outside, catch me
Oh,
outside." How about that? Have you heard
okay.
about?
No.
Oh, so she was like, she had this whole, she became a meme. It was Dr. Phil. And she literally wanted to fight Dr. Phil, and she was like, "Catch me outside. How about that?" And she was going to fight him, and it became a pop phrase or whatever. And I read the other day that she's like, she just dropped $5.1 million cash on a home. Like, she's breaking in money. She created an OnlyFans, and she set all the records for OnlyFans. She became famous for being a troubled teen. It was like that's how we become famous in our society. And so it's not hard. But so why are we putting these people on pedestals?
Right. Right. Yeah. It's again, priorities are just kind of jank. I don't get it. And that's amazing to me that she's got that kind of dough to blow on a house and
Insanity.
for being on a 12th rate show. I don't understand
I
how that
I
happens.
know. I've never even seen the episode, but I've seen all the memes that float around from this girl, and so it's insane.
Well, thanks, Jason. Now I've got to Google it. And now I'm going to be really irritated as I'm watching this, going, God bless Jason Tracy. Why did I have to do that? But I'm stuck. Now I got to know, man. Curiosity. Curiosity. Nah, you're right. It doesn't matter if we're talking about politics or we're talking about innovation or business or any of it. We look at things through an entertainment lens, and I feel like that's so weird to me. I don't know what the wealthiest athlete is making per year in his respective, or well, I'd say her, but it's not in her sport, it's his sport.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, there are guys that are getting paid $30 million a year to do something with a ball,
Yeah.
and teachers are going broke because they have to buy pencils for their students. It makes me want to stab myself in the eye with a pen, how
There's a
jacked
shortage
up
of
our
teachers
priorities.
because we don't pay teachers well, and that's the foundation of our. We spend all of our time from kindergarten to 12th grade in school.
If anybody, one of the pervasive things that happened over 2020, anywhere you go now has a tip jar, right? It used to be maybe you'd see a tip jar once in a while, but everybody's got tip jars. I think teachers need tip
Tip
jars.
jars. That's
I
amazing.
think I think if you're an athlete or an actor or somebody who has, multiple millions of dollars for the thing you do, I think you're responsible for picking five teachers that might have influenced your life. And there's five, right? Over the course of kindergarten to college, there's five. Um, and you have to, they're on your payroll now, right? I think that's a good way to give back, and not like you have to give them $4 million, but an extra 40 grand would sure go a long way.
When they're making 50, like, yeah, a few extra thousand would do go a long ways.
It's amazing to me. And I wish we would rethink that, because I don't want to live in a society full of dum-dums. Just don't.
Yeah. And the problem is it's the good teachers and the ones that you want to keep around are the ones that are going to leave because they can go find something else they'll pay more and reap their use their skills in a better manner.
One of my kids, seventh or eighth grade, might have been both actually, science teachers. He and I were on a softball team together as well. And he's like, I can't do this anymore. And he's like selling TVs to bars now, or some weird job, right? But
Yeah,
he's like, I can't do it. I don't want to keep doing this. And that's broken, man. That's
it is
absolutely broken,
broken.
that he's going to find more value in his life selling TVs to bars than educating young minds for the future. And it just,
And
yuck, just
that's yeah,
yuck.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
Ah,
and I don't mean to, I'm not trying to belittle him, right? That's not a
oh,
commentary on Mark in any way, shape, or form,
yep.
right? He's a dude, he's a good dude. But the situation is bad.
Yeah, yeah, because you go in to be a teacher, you're great at it, you're impacting lives versus, and it's not to belittle that situation, but selling TVs to bars is a little bit different weight in a society than mentoring a young person.
100%, right? But as long as somebody can slam dunk a basketball, we should make sure that they are taken care of for life. Let's give them all the monies. Give them to them.
And
Let's
they're the
go.
greatest role models too. So
Yeah. Yeah, almost, right?
almost,
Almost.
yeah,
Every
yeah.
once in a while there's a couple of them that are. It's crazy to me. So I this is cool, man. This is like, we're just sitting here having a conversation, and maybe interesting things will fall out of our face. I like that as a format.
That's what it's about, because that's what we're talking about, right? It's all about just conversation. It's all about asking questions. I talk about like sales, building relationships, networking. It's this. It's not the, well, Terry, I get an ROI for my clients by doing this, this, and this, and talking just straight shit. That is, but it's so common. And think about this though. How many people, if you ask somebody what's different about them, what makes them different about their business, or how they sell, or what do most people say?
Well, our people are a difference, and we are service oriented, and we go the extra mile, and our products are great. And yeah, anytime anyone's asked what's different, they give the exact same answer as
Exact
everybody else.
exact same answer. But the thing is, and I had this happen, I used this example, this poor lady, I just had a connection meeting, met her for the first time. We had a 30-minute meeting scheduled. She came to my office and she spent 30 minutes telling me about how different she was, how she's so different in her industry. She listens to people. She only sells to people that are a good fit. She asks questions. She likes to get to know people. And I'm like, that's great. And then she said, let me pull up my sales presentation. And then she spent the next 30 minutes of time selling me. You told me one thing and you did another. And that's what most people are doing. They're telling you, I'm different. I listen. I care. My customer service, yada, yada, yada. But it's just talking the talk. It's the people that walk the walk. People like you, Terry, that will just ask questions and listen and see the map and give back. Give. You said that word, I give. I have
Yeah.
that giving spirit. You say it right on your LinkedIn profile that people benefit from the magic that you have from your big heart, right? And that you're helping people. And that's the whole key. And it's not that people see the value in that enough to say it, but they're not doing it.
That's exactly it, right? There's a lot of talk and not a lot of action. And it's funny. I was on a call on the way to this meeting yesterday, and I said, this guy wants to get into the cannabis industry, and I was like, oh, I got a buddy that's in this space. I said, but he's kind of full of shit. Right? And he's like, wait, what? And I'm like, he's the kind of guy that's going to tell you he's going to do X, Y, and Z, and if you're lucky, he's going to do Q. Right? Don't give this dude any money. Do not give him money. Is my advice for you. Now, he might be able to help you, and he might actually follow through if it's simple. But and he's a good guy. I like him. He's just full of shit, and I think that's really really common in the world, right? You know, there's I one of the tricks I tell people all the time is when you see memes you like, put them in your phone, store them, save them, right?
Yeah.
And then share them, and now you don't ever have to wonder, oh my god, what am I going to post? I have a folder full of shit to post already. I don't think about it. I just go and search. Yeah, not feeling that today, not feeling that. Ooh, this one's good for Sunday, you know. um but there's two or three that I was looking through this morning that are basically actions over words, right? And one of them said very specifically, actions tell you who a person is, words tell you who they pretend to be.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I was like, ooh, when I'm ready to slap somebody, I'm dropping that one, man.
I love that. I love that. That's a great quote.
It is. It's so powerful and so accurate. So yeah, you'll see it. It'll be out there in the shining little light. I don't think I put it out today. I think I was on a grudgy kick today. It's on a hangover kick today. Is really what I was
the
like.
hangover
Trying to
tour.
trying to read the thing, man. I'm like, I need some extra eyes today. So yeah, that's cool.
I've never heard. I've met you at several events now, and I've never heard you say, "I listen to people. I give back," and we're talking about it now intentionally. But you don't walk around telling people in conversations that you listen and that you care.
That's right. That's why, right? I have integrity.
I have integrity. I found
Are you sure?
I found somebody I was responsible as a sales director for hiring people, and people that would tell me how religious they were and how they gave their life to God were usually the people that would steal from you in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, oh my god, right?
Because they're announcing it, they've got to project, right? They're projecting, and it's like, look at this picture, not over here.
That's exactly.
Don't look at the man behind the curtain.
It's so and it freaks me out a little bit. You know, I joke all the time, I'm a big fan of Christ. It's the Ians I can't stand. Right? Like if we just followed what the dude did. So, right? Yeah, it's fun, man. This has been really really enjoyable. Do you come into these with questions planned? Do you have like a guideline, or do you just kind of free flow and it goes where it goes?
If free flows, I have an idea of where I want to go, in the sense of most people I have, like, we have a conversation beforehand, and they start talking about something, and I'm like, I want to talk about that. Like, I want to know more about that. And so we'll have that. But these conversations go all over because, hey, look at how it happened, and we start talking about it. I knew we'd probably talk about marketing and networking authentically because I know that's what you're about. But where does it go? Where does it unfold? It's the same thing as going to a networking meeting and meeting a complete stranger. You don't have planned questions. And if you do, they're probably going to sound like they're planned questions.
They're probably the wrong questions. Yeah, man. I think, in all sincerity, I think you can probably have a framework for a conversation, right?
Yeah.
You can have an idea of a few things that you definitely want to learn.
Yep.
But yeah, my podcast partner is like, do you even look at their bio? I'm like, no. If I look at their bio, I'm going to make a bunch of assumptions about who they are.
Yes. Yep.
Right. I'd much rather have it unfold organically. And I can't be as interested if I have a preconceived notion of what's going to happen. And she's like, yeah, that actually makes sense. So she allows it.
And the questions probably just come to you, right?
Of course. Yeah.
It's conversation.
I tell people all the time, in that first meeting where you're trying to, learn that name, I'm like, all you have to do is listen and trust that the right words are going to fall out of your mouth.
Yep.
Because they do
They do
every time.
Yep.
And maybe I'm just more trusting of that. Maybe I have so much faith in that. I don't know.
Just have faith, Terry.
Just got to have faith, man. That's it. It's the answer for everything. And but it does, man. You can't really go wrong
Yeah.
if you're genuinely interested in other folks, right? You
It's
can't.
so true. And what's so cool is I've had people on, I've had a lot of people on this podcast that have never been on a podcast before, and they'll be so nervous. I had this one guy a couple months ago that he canceled on me 3 times, and then the morning of we were finally going to meet, he messaged me, "All right, I'm coming to your office, but we're probably not going to film today. I don't think I'm ready." And so I got here, I'm setting everything up. And he's like, you probably shouldn't take the time to set stuff up. We're not going to go today. He's like, I'm not ready. I've got, these things going on. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, well, I'm changing a couple things here and there. And like, great, that's not the reason why we're on. So we're never going to talk about that. So like, like, he's like, oh, we're doing this, huh? And we ended up talking for an hour and a half. And then I had to
Nice.
cut him off and say, all right, it's time to go. And he's like, been doing this for an hour already. Like we've been doing it for an hour and a half, actually. It's like, wow, because it's just a conversation. We're just talking.
Yeah. And it's wild to me that people get nervous and stage fright, right? That's something that I was blessed to not have as an affliction, right?
Yeah.
Even junior high speeches, I was like, oh shit, you're gonna let me talk for the whole class? Giddy up, let's go. Buckle up, bitches. We're going for a ride.
We're going for a ride.
I had I think I owe my speaking career to my senior year chemistry teacher. I had class at 7 a.m. or 7, whatever time class started, 7:15. I've told you that I have a history of being late. And I had 4 buddies, and we would roll the class to school together, right? We'd pick up and do that whole thing. And, we'd always stop at the store and get little donuts and chocolate milk or whatever, because that's important stuff, man.
It is, yeah.
But my teacher told me if I were late and could come up with a viable excuse for being late that the entire class would accept, he would never mark me tardy. Which to me was like, dude, you just gave me the American Express black card to be late every single day, right? That was my original content. I wish I could pull some of those stories out, man. Somebody should. We didn't have cell phones, obviously, back in the early 20s when I was a teen. But yeah, dude, it was cool. That
He
was
gave me
fun.
the American Express black card.
He did, man. He's like, here you go, charge it up, let's go. Like, I am never coming to this bitch on time. It ain't gonna happen.
And then when I get here, I'm going to make a speech.
Yeah, I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna because I'm a bit of an attention whore. I don't just skosh. My wife reminds me of that with some level of frequency. It's like yeah, all right, you got me. That's a good one. Mouth was open, called it.
That's probably why I resonated with you really well, talking about going to networking meetings and it ends at 1:30 and you're still there at 3. Because that's me all the my wife would be like, I thought you said you were going to be done at 2. And I'm like, who I say that, but that
Right.
I'm
There were
going to the event.
there were 3 people. I went to an event the other day. I went to a birthday party, and like I ghosted out, and they were like, "Why'd you leave so early?" And I said, "Because otherwise, I'm going to be the last one to leave." Right. And I couldn't be the last one to leave at this deal. That wasn't going to be a thing, because that was going to be like past midnight. And not that I'll turn into a pumpkin or anything, but I just that wasn't where I needed to be. I needed to go. And so if I don't get out, I don't get out, you know?
If you're right, if I'm one of the last ones there, I'm going to be the last one there. Same thing. So we really resonate. And I I had this event a couple of months ago, and it was literally I'm trying to get out, my coat's on. I texted my wife, I'm on my way home. On the way out, like I ran into 4 different people, like on the way out the door, and it was like next thing I know, an hour and a half passed.
Right, right. And your wife's like, you're 15 minutes away. Why did it take you? Yeah, man.
No, I was literally 3 minutes away from my house, so that was that was not even
Didn't even have that.
it's not even a
Honey,
good excuse.
I tried something new. I crawled home. I wanted to see how long that would take. And turns out hour and a half. Who knew? Who knew? That's how it is. So it is. Oh, my knees hurt. Leave me alone. That's so funny, man. Yeah, I'm horrible about the leaving thing, right? And I don't. We always referred to it as a Minnesota goodbye. I grew up in the Twin Cities, and you know the Minnesota goodbye is a half hour for fun, man. Like, when you start the car, you're gonna run out of gas. You gotta kind of pace that thing out a little bit.
That is hilarious. That is hilarious. Well, man, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. There's some amazing, amazing stuff. It's the root of just networking and building relationship magic. I always say sales and building relationships is so easy, but we make it so hard. And I think we
Yeah.
described today perfectly how we make it hard and how to do it the right way, because there is a specific right way, and it's not the way that you think it is. It's not the fast talking, it's not saying the right words, it's not being having the magical product or service.
I love that. You know, it's so funny when you're a kid and you're a good speaker, people say, "Oh man, you'd be good in sales," right? And boy, is that just the shittiest advice ever, right? It's got nothing to do with your ability to talk in
Yeah.
sales, right?
Yep.
It's not how that is. So we've got that mindset backwards from the get. So I really appreciated the conversation about asking questions and listening and really taking a dive into that, because that's like the fundamental stuff,
It is.
right? It's the building blocks of all things relationship.
In to come full circle to end it, it's the reason why people are asking, why'd you leave early? They wanted you to be there longer. It's the reason why you've built a name up and people say that you're famous, right? Like people have heard of you a time or two. You know, those are the reasons, not because you said the right words, or it's because you've had a big heart, because you've listened, because you're a giver, because you can connect the dots and see how to connect relationships. And those are all the things that win friends and influence people.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I accept that. I appreciate you saying it. Yeah, it's where it's at, man. It's where it's at. It's people will find you much more interesting if
When you
you
don't
work
talk about
on
yourself.
being if you're being interested, man. It's like you become fascinating to folks when you're interested in what they got going on.
You absolutely
It's
do.
just wild. It's and to your point, so simple, so simple. um and most often it doesn't have to be fake either. It can be exceedingly genuine if you have like an ounce of curiosity, right? You
Yeah,
apply it. That's
that's it.
that's the driver right there.
That's
It's
the
like,
magic
oh
sauce.
yeah, I just want to learn, man. I want to hear, I want to learn, I want to be something. So
And it
that's
doesn't mean
awesome.
that everybody's your person, right? You
No.
might get yourself in a situation where somebody's talking about themselves quite a bit. You got to chew your arm off and get off of that conversation, right? Like that's not your person. You know to stay away from them next time.
That's right. Here's a fun fact. I don't really like people.
I would never guess that.
I don't, I genuinely, as a rule, I don't really like people. I'm fascinated by individuals, right? And I've got groups of friends, but as a rule, I think people are a peck of fickle mushheads. And as such, I'm quoting Mayor Diamond Joe Quimby there. Um, it's fascinating to me to be in the world that I'm in, and because it seem like contradictory thoughts, right? Wait a second, you do all this for all these people all day, every day, and you don't like them? Yeah, it's kind of sucks to be me sometimes.
It's a gift and a curse.
It's like I'm wired funny, man. So someone asked me what's different about you. I'm gonna start there. How about that, Jason Tracy? What's different about you? Well, for starters, I don't really like people. I just want us to be better. That's it. right? Like I like it is self-included, right? There's a lot of improvement opportunity in this 6'1" frame of mind. Lots of improvement opportunity. Um,
I would I would say as funny as that is, and as ridiculous as it sounds to introduce yourself that way, it would stand out and at least be different than most people, and you'd get a conversation going around it.
yeah, for sure. People be like, "Wait, what? Aren't you the guy that did the thing with that and the other?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I am."
It was exhausting.
No, that's it, right? I've got all the energy in the world, man. And we used to Charlie Wahlberg and I used to present together a lot, and we toured around for a couple of years when social media first came out, and we were leading those discussions and getting people training wheeled onto LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or whatever the case may be, and had some other stuff about relationship economy and goal setting, and had a blast. Really had a blast, and it was kind of like a John and Paul kind of Beatlesy thing, right?
Yeah. Yep.
We both, it was like a hive mind. We worked together on the content. He was a great visual communicator, and so the presentation always looked sharp, and I'm a pretty good wordsmith. So, and he's even better. So, I mean, it was really good stuff. Um, and there was a point to this story, I'm sure of it. Uh, and we would go and we would just, what the hell was the point to this story? Maybe there wasn't a point. No, it was really about the idea of, I want to go and I want to share this, right? Like, I'm called
Mhm.
to provide this information to you, Mr. Entrepreneur, Mr. Wantrepreneur, Mr. Soon to be preneur, whatever the case may be. Um, how do you get better at the things you're doing, right? So you can provide more for your family,
Yeah.
and you can grow your business, and then you can eventually give back to our community. Because without those three things happening, communities fall apart. They
Yeah.
die. So, it was an interesting run for a long time. I haven't actually spoken on stage with Charlie, and I finally figured out the point to the story. So that was a nice pretend point. But the real point, the real point was when he and I would present. He was a former rock star, right? He was like a lead singer in a band. And if there was a good audience that was engaged, he'd have a ton of energy to give. If the audience wasn't engaged, he was flattered, right? And it was because he's the kind of person that takes the energy from the crowd and channels it back to them. I'm the kind of person that could speak to a brick wall and make the wall move, right?
Yep. Yep.
You gotta have enough to give, right? And that's an important piece. So yeah, that was nice job with the other fake story. I like that. I kind of set you up.
There's several points and stories that we tell. So
There is indeed. There is indeed. All right. Well, I think my dog's telling me it's time for him to go outside. And
awesome.
so,
Last thing, I want the listeners to get this because you mentioned your book earlier, and I think it's a great addition to what we're talking about, and people should check it out. So how do they check out your book?
that's a good point. I'm about to release the third version of it.
Okay.
So there's gonna be a page on trybean.com, TRYBEAN.com. So they'll be able to find it there. But last I looked on Amazon, it was like $218. I'm like, I'm not seeing any of that, Jack. Come on, man. Let's buy this
What's
thing.
going on?
Yeah, it was crazy. So I've got like, I don't know, a dozen copies somewhere in my basement right now.
Okay.
But I was always frustrated by the cover art on it. So I did a poor job of promoting this particular version. And because of what happened in 2020, I've got some more updated, like, online face-to-face zoomy kind of networking tips. So
Okay.
I'm adding those to the book. I'm gonna reskin it and rename it. So all that's gonna happen. But the book's called Be Connected. And if you message me, like I said, I have a couple of copies, and I'm happy to sign them and send them to folks. So
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, man. Thanks for coming on. This was an awesome conversation.
Jason, thank you. I appreciate your willingness to allow me to share time and space with you, my good man.
Absolutely. Thanks. Now get
Uh,
your dog out.
all
All
right. We'll do.
right. All right.
Talk to you. Bye
All right.
bye.
Bye.